is my fireside chat. During mandated social distancing as a result of the international pandemic, COVID-19, we find ourselves in a strange time. The isolation, the hoarding of resources, the uncertainty. And as always, this time has made me turn to the sacred texts for inspiration. The Little House on the Prairie series by Laura Ingalls Wilder. In particular, the 6th volume in the series, The Long Winter. Now, in this book, the Ingalls family is homebound on a vast empty prairie as blizzards ravage the land from October through April. Food and coal are scarce and no one could leave their homes. Young Laura gets lost in a whiteout when the blizzard suddenly hits while she's in school. And this is actually based on what is now referred to as the 1888 Children's Blizzard, which came out of nowhere and was deadly. A train bringing supplies was promised for months on end, but they never knew when it was coming. Some moments in which I can draw parallels between Wilder's telling of this piece of her story and the coronavirus lockdown are as follows. First, making do with little. Ever the domestic creatrix, Ma, Laura's mother, creates sustenance for the family with very little. For example, an apple pie she made from a green pumpkin, bread made from grain ground in a coffee grinder, and a button lamp made from axle grease, calico, and an overcoat button when candles had run out. Codfish gravy with bread seemed like a treat because they had so little to eat, but they were so hungry. Uncertainty. With school canceled and supplies running low, no one knowing when another blizzard would hit, the Ingalls family and the rest of the town were bracing for months on end for spring to come, finally. Without the media we have today, they knew far less about what to expect. But, like with the coronavirus pandemic, they could only go by what was estimated. They had to live in the moment and hope for the best, just like we're doing right now. They got creative. In the long winter, Mary braids a new rug. The girls get creative with their needlework. Pa sings and writes songs on his fiddle, as always. What I note most of all, though, is that Laura begins exercising her writer's voice in this volume, as she narrates the visual world for her sister Mary, who has gone blind from scarlet fever. One of my favorite passages that describes this is when she is describing the outside world to her sister, and she says, "There is no cloud," Laura assures her, "but I don't like the weather. The air feels savage somehow." And Mary, who's always this pragmatist, says, "The air is only air. You mean it is cold." "I don't mean it's cold. I mean it's savage," Laura snapped. Savage. But the creativity that they're exercising is also a privilege. As the long hours of work amongst the relentless cold and snow continue for Pa, his hands become so raw, stiff, and gnarled that he can no longer even play his fiddle. A parallel to the question during the quarantine for COVID-19, when some may feel free to be productive and creative during this time off, but others may not be able to, either because they're ill, because they're working, because of anxiety or depression over the current situation, or from suddenly being in charge of taking care of their children full-time or even educating their small children at home. Next, they get on each other's nerves. Anyone familiar with the Little House series knows that Laura has a particular inferiority complex and anger toward her older, prettier sister Mary, who seems to be the favorite child. This amplifies during the long winter, when the family is stuck in an almost gothic situation, trapped in their house. Feeling lonely. There are many times during this book when Laura notes that she's very close to her neighbors in proximity, but they can have no connection to one another because they're trapped in their homes, just like us. In one particular passage, she says, "But even after Laura was warm, she lay awake listening to the wind's wild tune and thinking of each little house in town, alone in the whirling snow, not even a light from the next house shining through. And the little town was alone on the wide prairie. A lamp could shine out through the blackest darkness, and a shout could be heard a long way. but no light and no cry could reach through a storm that had wild voices and an unnatural light of its own. The blankets were warm, and Laura was no longer cold, but she still shivered. Finally, sharing resources. And this is paraphrased because I didn't have time to work on this. The Wilder brothers, Almanzo, who Laura will later marry, and Royal live nearby and are shown living in well-fed luxury compared to the struggling Ingalls, enjoying pancakes and fresh coffee and meat from their general store and not sharing with others. However, when their resources run out, they band together with the Ingalls and other people in town to search for wheat, working together to help feed the community. And this makes me think of the issues that are coming up during this time about wealth disparities, resource hoarding, and a lack of access to healthcare for many people, and reminds me that only through the redistribution of wealth and working together can we help fight this virus, and that to use pause words feels like an invisible thing that feels almost alive. That's all I have for you tonight, but I hope that you enjoyed this talk about the long winter. Give it a read.